This is part 2 of my story. Part 1 is linked in the description. So after multiple injuries from medications, I was in a position that I felt all my dreams I had been basing my efforts on my whole life were gone. The intellectual functioning I needed to be able to live a truly independent life seemed to have been lost. My anxiety levels were at an all-time high, and I became suicidally depressed. Despite all the damage I had suffered from pharmaceuticals, no clinician was able to diagnose what had happened. The closest I'd come to an answer was with the clinical geneticist, who said people with metabolic conditions can have problems with their autonomic nervous system. This is a very uncommon system for doctors to be concerned with. But it seems that new science is uncovering the importance of this system, particularly concerning the vagus nerve and its role in interacting with our gut microbiomes. Because I felt pain and weakness in parts of the body connected to the vagus nerve, such as my gut and vocal cords, I have speculated that these medicines have damaged it. What this feels like is horrifying. I do not believe in anything supernatural, but these medicines have damaged what I have referred to in the past as my heart and soul. The most wonderful feelings of life were weakened and poisoned by these substances. It's hard to understand why I panicked so much after these events, unless you can empathize with having one's soul, one's life force being injured greatly. There are some very mysterious things about the human body we have yet to understand fully, but I feel like I have been given a shocking tour of what lies inside our bodies and how we do not know enough about it to keep us safe from the substances we are putting in it. This has all led to a very dark time for me. I thought I needed aggressive treatment and remembered how I recovered before with shock therapy. I decided to get the treatment again. But in the third treatment, something bizarre happened. I woke up from anesthesia with a strong pain in the front of my skull, where I had been shocked. And I no longer felt any mood whatsoever. After being sent back to the psychiatric clinic, I developed a psychotic episode set on by the shock therapy, which was highly unusual. Something had gone very wrong, and after I came down with the psychosis, I refused to continue the treatment. I believe that the medication reactions had injured my brain to the point that I could not tolerate the shocks. I left the hospital. I'm not sure how long it was, but for at least a few days, my perception of time and body were totally screwed up. It felt like my consciousness was warped, fading in and out. I could hardly make sense of my surroundings. My brain was scrambled. It was frightening. I was angry and panicked. How could such harm be caused by medicine in this day and age? I was at a breaking point. I was desperate to get my life back in a hopeful direction that only a few months ago seemed like a reality. I decided I would go with the least understood method by science. I thought that current medical understanding was not good enough, and it was leading to the damage that had been done to me. This metabolic disorder, the food intolerances, and just the many signs that something was wrong pushed me towards thinking that I might have a better life if I really changed my gut microbiome. I was also frightened by the condition of my stool, which contained a strange gel-like substance I mentioned before. When someone's frightened, they make bad decisions out of sheer panic. And that's ultimately what happened. I decided I would make a powerful enema using large amounts of probiotics, trillions. I wanted to change my gut microbiome in one big stroke. So I purchased the bacteria, mixed them together, and gave myself an enema with the concoction. It took about 3 days before things started to go crazy. At first, I noticed my vision changing. I lost a lot of detail in what I was seeing, and my night vision just went away. I couldn't see anything in the dark. When I started to feel weak and began having coordination issues, I got into such a panic that I had to be hospitalized psychiatrically. In the hospital, I had such strong feelings of weakness, I thought I might die. Sometimes I could barely stand. But amazingly, all my vital signs were normal. So time passed and I learned to live with the symptoms, but since that horrific event of compromising my microbiome, I've observed some remarkable phenomenon that I'd never encountered before in my 30 years of life. After the initial phase, I entered into a cloudy state in which my thinking abilities were impaired in a selective manner that is still to this day difficult to describe. I tried to undo what was happening by using antibiotics, but I had adverse reactions to all of them, even doxycycline, which I had taken for a year straight in my teens and had no issues previously. It caused massive problems this time and caused me to go to the hospital in panic that was so severe I thought I might die as well. But the doctors had no idea what was going on and assumed I was having problems with mental illness instead. So after the horrible torture of these medications, I vowed I would never take them again and instead would try to find a way to get a fecal transplant. While in the hospital recovering from antibiotics, I believe I picked up a rather nasty microbe from the shower stall. I got a whole host of new symptoms within an hour. The left side of my neck and what feels like my left vocal cord began to throb in pain. This was followed by intense brain fog that at times was so overwhelming I could not think at all. After the initial panic, I found that with time, these massive foggy episodes would pass. But they continued again. I would eat a food or pick my teeth with my finger and seem to perhaps introduce a new microbe that would cause some fever, and then again these changes with my cloudiness and my thought, and would make my thinking ability just so slow and would hurt my head very strongly. What has been quite scary for me are the numerous physical changes, in addition to the mental ones. a kind of gunk is produced that comes out of the pores of my face, hair, and ears. My chin is particularly full of it. It somehow ends up caking over the lenses of my glasses without me touching them. My skin has become weak and lost most of its elasticity. I tried turning a sticky knob to shut off water to a part of the house, and the skin of my fingers just tore off easily. I've completely lost all calluses on my hands and feet, and the skin sheds there easily. My entire inside of my mouth hurts slightly, and I feel soreness when I chew. My hair has been slowly falling out, but the worst physical change is that my tendons and ligaments are in pain and feel like they could tear easily. My entire spine feels like it's on the verge of a major accident if I'm not careful. This probiotic accident has caused even more damage than the medicines ever did. I get sad about the fact I did it to myself. But the anger I feel towards the medicines that harmed me first is what consumes me the most.